Good evening and welcome to the second episode of The Roundtable, where we take on the stories and give you insights that others will not. Well, a lot's happened in the last month since the first episode put out. The war in Ukraine is still going on, Israel still committing genocide over in Gaza, and freedom of speech here in the UK is very much under attack. And also the Epstein files that are just a left-wing conspiracy and definitely aren't real and definitely don't implicate the sitting president are still not real. Well, that's where we're going to start tonight's episode, so let's dive in. Well, welcome back everyone, and as viewers will see, we're up to our full contingent today. Chrissy, welcome.
Thank you.
She couldn't be bothered with the first episode. I'm joking. Right, I said we were going to start with the updates on the Epstein situation, which is rumbling along as much as Trump and his team try and bury it and hope people forget about it and they can move on, because I think it's not going to be good for him if the truth comes out. It's not going away, is it? Because obviously he campaigned on that and there's a lot of people very, very angry at what's happened so far.
Well, I think when you look at what's been going on, I mean, talk about in plain bloody sight. Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously has the stuff on Donald Trump. He was the closest friend, according to Epstein, for 10 years. And he was a friend for the same period with Ghislaine Maxwell. And she would have seen it all. So she's now in, or was in a prison in Florida, a proper prison, if you like. But she has the stuff on him.
Yeah.
So he then dispatches a guy called Todd Blanche, who is the second in command, it says here, he's a gopher, at the Justice Department, to meet her for over 2 days. And Todd Blanche is Trump's former criminal lawyer, must have been a busy bloody man, him, and he went to see her with her lawyer, and her lawyer is a best mate of Todd Blanche. And what came out of that was she was very quickly moved to the most minimum security prison in Texas you could imagine. And now we're hearing reports that she's qualified for going out of the prison for work reasons. I mean, in plain sight, it's like, Ghislaine. And she knows this and she's playing it. Say I had nothing to do with it. Clear my name, which through reports she has. And we'll sort it out, your 20-year sentence. And it's obvious what's going on in front of your face. And still, the MAGA, the core of it anyway, is supporting Trump. It's extraordinary. I mean, the man is just putting everything on public display, what he's doing and why he's doing it. And all these other diversions that he's throwing in, trying to get people to stop talking about Epstein. But in the end, I don't think it's going to work because it is so blatant. And when you also look at the various investigations, I think CBS did one, into the released footage in the New York prison, the night that Epstein is said to have committed suicide, it's very clear that that footage is very dodgy. And to emphasize something, you see a camera, because there's about 2 cameras not working that night.
There's a theme, isn't it?
You see a camera, and people get the impression that it's looking at the door of Epstein's cell. That's the kind of feel that people get. It wasn't. And that camera could see a certain area next to Epstein's cell. But this bit here, which could get people up and in the cell without being seen by that camera, was not picked up by it. And interestingly, during this investigation, they've identified like an orange color, like the orange uniforms in prison, just seen on the right-hand side. Just the rest of the person is out of shot, and it's just obvious what happened, and it's obvious what they're doing, and yet it still goes on, and he's still the president. It's extraordinary.
I mean, a viewer could probably possibly ask, why don't they do the same thing to Ghislaine Maxwell then? Because she can't speak, and you don't have to give her all these concessions if she's not breathing anymore.
Because I think if she's dead, then the doubt is always there. It's like they killed her because of that. The other thing I'd say as well, in terms of Epstein, I'm not convinced he's dead anyway.
No.
Because, they're talking about the fact that there's a gap in the footage and you couldn't see, the killer that killed Epstein getting into the cell. It's like, well, yeah, but you also couldn't see him getting out.
People have pointed out the pictures of the body and his nose looks different.
Yeah, his nose looks completely different. And also, another part of it is, obviously, Dad spoke about this before in terms of the COVID stuff. So if you look at the wet market stories, the official narrative, right? And then you have the kind of alternative narrative, which is Wuhan lab, right? And then so they both get a bit of traction, and this one's getting more traction now. But they both keep COVID alive.
Yep.
As a pathogen. And then if you think of Epstein, I remember when Epstein killed himself, and then suddenly someone came out and said no, because he'd examined the body in the way that he'd died, it was with strangulation through force, so actually he'd been murdered. So you're like, okay, well this guy appears like the alternative guy, right? Because he's going against the official narrative of suicide. But either way, in both those stories, Epstein's dead in that cell. I'm not convinced he is.
I think that's a right. I think that's a good point. Over the years, you see so many conspiracies and so many misdirections, giving you another conspiracy so that you don't see the real one. And given that, I think we have to keep our minds open to the fact that he may well still be alive. And in terms of, getting rid of Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, can you imagine what the impact of that would be now?
Now, definitely.
It would just blow the whole thing out. It would be obvious that they killed her for a reason. Much better for her to clear his name, even though she's lying through her teeth, and take that route than get rid of her. Absolutely.
There's another element to this, which was I look into the cult behind it. You can always find some coding, and the day that he died was something called Tisha B'Av in the Jewish faith. Now that's supposed to be the day where they commiserate the sacking of the two temples. So that minute that was missing ticked over into Tisha B'Av that year.
Right.
So that was supposed to be, it's an occult symbol, that minute. There's no way for me that minute missing from the day before, I think it was the 9th into the 10th, that minute is where it ticks over into something called Tisha B'Av, and you have a look into it, it's where they commiserate something bad happening to the Jewish faith, and that was when that's when they commiserate the temples being sacked, not when they were sacked. They were sacked apparently on 9/11 or 11/9. But that's the day that year, if you look into the year he died. It moves every year, so it's slightly different every year, that date. But that's when it started, that year. That's not a coincidence for me. That tells you a lot.
Well, they love their symbolism. So the other key thing with Epstein is that people focus on the trafficking aspect of it, which is obviously incredibly important to highlight. But there's also the transhumanist element to him and the things that he had going on at his ranches in New Mexico and the islands and the things that they were researching there. And I know you've interviewed Juliette Bryant a couple of times about the kind of things that she saw when on the island, and other people have spoken out against that as well. So it's not just the trafficking aspect to it, it's what else was he working on and on behalf of who? That is a rabbit hole that you don't hear discussed anywhere near as much as the who's going to be implicated in the rings.
Yeah, well, what they're also trying to do all the time is when something like the Epstein revelations come to light, they try to isolate it, right? They try to build basically ring fence it. But none of these elements of the global conspiracy are happening in and of themselves. They're all connected to other things. And what they're trying to do, and the hijacked mainstream alternative media helps them magnificently, is to ring fence things. So it's the Epstein stuff, it's the Epstein files. But you start to go out from that, just like Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile's a classic. They tried to isolate it, that Jimmy Savile was a mega historic paedophile, which he was. But in ring fencing it, you have a situation where the Lord Mountbatten, who was a known paedophile, brought on his own admission in terms of Savile, brought Savile into the inner circle of the royal family in the 1960s. And he was a bosom buddy of people like Prince Charles right up to the time that he died. And there's no way in the world that the royal family wouldn't have known what he was doing, because the police knew what he was doing, although they never got him, or even tried to get him, really. And when you look at Special Branch, which look after the royal family security, and you look at MI6 and MI5, they knew what Savile was doing, so the royal family did. But that was ring-fenced. It's just about Savile. And what also was ring-fenced and not talked about was the fact that Savile was procuring children for the rich and famous. Did I mention that he was in the inner circle of the royal family? And so this is what they're trying to do. And the Epstein situation is being ring-fenced. It's about him and Maxwell. It's not. It's part of a massive web, which is why it will connect not just into child trafficking, it will connect into transhumanism, because that is the fundamental control system above all others that they're pursuing.
Well, that's one of the legitimate questions people have asked, is why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail? Because at the moment she's a trafficker, but to who? Because no one's actually been convicted of being on the island, on the plane, on the list, when all those flight logs and that little black book obviously has hundreds and hundreds of names of it, from politics, from Hollywood, I would imagine, and entertainment and so on. But none of them have ever faced a question.
Well, I love
it's
it
being protected.
when Trump says, and his MAGA media echo chamber say, well, if Trump was in it, the Democrats, when they were in power, they would have just made it public, wouldn't they, if there's anything bad about Trump? No, the Democrats are in it as well. They're all in it. It's a one-party state. Hello. And that's why they've not. It's not been released, because it affects all of them. But you know, when you look at what Trump has done since he came to office a second time, the Democrats, although they paid lip service to things here and there, they've really not gone for the jugular, have they?
No.
And in terms of this Epstein thing, of course, it will be bad for them as it will be bad for Trump.
It kind of feels like what they're doing in America is what they're going to do here. So if we move on to freedom of speech and that topic here in the UK, because it segues nicely from that, it feels like because the Biden presidency and Biden, by the end, was such a joke, it's pretty much destroyed the Democratic Party. So even now, you're almost at the midterms, and there's no rumblings of any candidate that's going to stand against probably Vance in the next election, whereas normally you'd start to have that now. So it's kind of killed that, so it allows Trump and the right to be the solution in minds of people that are supposedly pro-freedom. Kind of feels like they're doing the same here. This Starmer government is designed to destroy the Labour Party. Sunak already destroyed the Tories, which then give Farage the mandate and reform the mandate come the next election to then do what the same as Trump's doing in America. And the fact that you're seeing attacks on freedom of speech in America by supposedly a right-wing government and attacks here supposedly by a left-wing government just shows that they're clearly one of the same side. But it kind of feels like the foundations were set by the Biden administration, and they're doing the same thing here, aren't they? Labour are going so draconian so that people look at the only alternative in their mind as the solution, and then they're just going to continue the same thing. So you were saying yesterday in the office, weren't you, about this new Reform MP for Runcorn, the lady who did an interview about digital ID being a good thing. Don't get the
I don't see a
problem.
problem with it.
And you're selling it to the audience that would be sceptical normally.
Well, Rich has described it great in terms of the left wing, right wing of basically being legs that are walking towards a finish line. It's like the left leg, say that's the Labour Party, then it can take you so far, but it's not going to take you the whole way because people will resist eventually. Right? Well, they already are. So then the pendulum swings back to the other side and people go, okay, we'll bring this party in. And they do a couple of things to pay lip service maybe, but then they take it to there. And then in the end, then people go, oh, the pendulum swung too far now. This is ridiculous. We need to go back to and then suddenly there's a new Labour leader. And suddenly, oh shit, we're like 5 steps closer, you know. And I think, and we spoke about this morning, the fact that I think Reform are there to bring in the digital ID. I think they are. In the same way that, you know, you're with Trump getting in America and all those people that were basically anti-AI are suddenly, it's sold to them as, we don't want to have to do this, but we need to keep up with China, because if we don't keep up with China, they'll take over. And those patriots go, oh, mate, I don't want AI, but yeah, otherwise China. I'd rather have American AI than Chinese AI.
And also, I trust Trump with it rather than Biden with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I trust Musk with it rather than Ellison with it.
Soft sell, hard sell.
And also, of course, you've got the other sell to the MAGA, which is if we have this digital ID and tracking 24/7, then we can keep on top of the migrants.
You can have the same
and
here.
such like.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say what they all have in common, whether it's left or right, is blatant stupidity. And the second thing is pure gaslighting. You know, those two things, whoever you're looking at, left, right, whatever party, in whatever country, those are the two things, the key things that you keep seeing.
How important as well, just a quick one, do you think it is that they've, and I think people like Alex Jones have massively assisted with this, convinced everybody all of a sudden that the problem, all the problems, are left-wing. It's the woke mind virus, it's the left-wing ideology, all of the deep state, it's all the left. So therefore, any right-wing government, whether it be Farage to come in, Trump now, Le Pen probably to come in, Wilders in the Netherlands, or whoever's going to probably go in Canada, they see that as well. We're safe now, because they're the deep state, rather than they're two of the same arse.
Yeah, there's two things I would point out about that. First of all, of course, as you were pointing out, Gaz, the woke was taken so extreme, ridiculous extreme, like people losing their jobs for not using the right pronouns for someone with a dick, you know.
Remember the monkey penis guy in the library?
Yeah, so you had that, and you were always going to get a freaking response to it. You were always going to get a resistance, a pushback. And so you say, oh, we're going to get rid of woke. And the thing that really struck me in the last week or so was the Palestine Action protest in London, where, for people who haven't come across it around the world, Palestine Action is a protest group against what's happening in Gaza. And they were prescribed as a terrorist organization by the terrorist Starmer government. And as a result, if you say you support Palestine Action, a prescribed terrorist group, then you're arrested. So they turn up and they've got their banners saying, I support Palestine Action. And there was hundreds and hundreds of arrests.
About 500 arrests.
500 arrests.
And mostly elderly people.
Yeah, there's a lot of elderly people
You know,
battered
people in
by
the
police.
80s, 90s, and
There was a blind guy in a wheelchair, wasn't there?
Yeah, and it's marked as a terrorist organization, and they say themselves, while not involving violence against people, but it still constitutes of terrorism under the Terrorism Act 2000. So And just sitting there in one of those demonstrations can get you in prison up to 14 years.
That's what you were talking about,
Any support
gaslight.
for a terrorist group is
Again,
classed as a
gaslight.
crime, isn't it?
And the point I'm moving on to is that when all those arrests happened, the right
Oh, cheering.
was cheering. And they were saying, yeah, arrest the mob and all that stuff, right? This is the same right who, quite rightly, condemned the ludicrous sentences for jailing people after the Southport killings
Yeah, people like Lucy
for
Conway.
internet posts. And you go, can you not see in your myopia of sides that the same force that jailed those people for internet posts are the same force that has arrested the people you're cheering that being arrested?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's left, right, instead of good, wrong.
It's like being in a playground, and I do apologise to children, especially in primary schools and infant schools, for making that analogy, because a few people can't control the world. If you can divide people from that one force targeting both, if you can disconnect people from that basic understanding, then you can do what you like.
Well, we've had on that, just quickly, they've gone even worse and even further than that, right? So it's not even just a point of celebrating the arrest of a certain group while you would be against it if it was your side or whatever. Yesterday, there's a Twitter page called Radio Genoa. You may well have seen it.
Oh, yeah.
It's massively pro-Israel, it's massively anti-Islam. Basically, every post is anti-Islam. So they put up the video. At the time of doing trending this morning, it had 2.7 million views, right? Hundreds and thousands of comments. So they put up a video of two elderly ladies being arrested by 20 police officers, and they point out in the post that one of these police officers has got a hijab, right? And that this is Britain being taken over by Islam, this is Britain falling. Now it's cropped in such a way that you can't see in the background all the Palestine Action banners.
Right.
So they've framed it as these two elderly ladies being British patriots who are protesting against the mass immigration into Britain and being arrested by police officers, including one wearing a hijab. And all these comments are all, this Islam's doing this, they're taking over and stuff, not once mentioning the fact that they're being arrested for supporting Palestine.
So who benefits? That's the question.
Or divide and rule.
Well, no, who benefits from them gaslighting into the supporting Palestine, saying it's a terrorist organisation when clearly they're just spray painting planes. And apparently they have other information, but we're not allowed to know that.
And also, how do you get into an RAF base unless someone helps you?
Unless
Not
you're
being
allowed
funny,
in.
you don't.
Yeah, and also, my understanding is that they put other, quote, far-right organisations in the same bill.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just vote for one and not for the other. So it was stitched up from the start to get Palestine Action prescribed.
And they're misusing the terrorism laws now for everything.
Well,
which
Britain's
is,
an occupied government. It is
Yeah.
the same as America is.
What we've spoken about before is that nobody agrees with the state on everything. Everyone will have their disagreements with the state. Even the sort of people that are loving Starmer, which is a very, very, very small minority, will disagree with him on certain things. But I think it was Ricky Gervais who went to watch him said the same thing. All that happens if you're part of cancelling somebody today, it ensures you're going to cancel in future because you don't know what was acceptable in the times and and all of that. And as times evolve and what you think today is okay in 5 years, it's not. So by being part of that cancel culture and that cancel mob, which is what supposedly the right have campaigned against for years and now have become part of when it's somebody they disagree with, you're just ensuring that further down the line you're going to be cancelled.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting, this is one of the things that I love about Ickonic and what we do, is you can look at each event in isolation. So you can be anti someone coming across in a dinghy and getting homes and all of that sort of thing, and also be pro-Palestine having its own freedom. Whereas most people can't see the difference. If you are anti-immigration, you must be pro-Israel. If you're pro-Palestine, you must be pro-immigration. They can't
That's
see
exactly,
that ability
Absolutely.
to look and go, well, actually,
Well-
when you really look at it, the mass immigration is coming from Israel, to be fair, in terms of the agenda behind it. So it's a really weird time to live in. Where
If you have empathy, you have nuance.
nuance, that's the key word, yeah. Nuance.
When you're
People don't
removed
have
from
it.
empathy, you tend to just go boom, full force one
Exactly.
side and full force the other side. As soon as you, and it sounds a bit airy-fairy maybe, but when you connect it with yourself and you have the nuance, there's no way that you're going to look at left or right. You'll always be looking at, is this right or is this
Is it
wrong?
right or is it wrong? Yeah.
Exactly right. And, you know, once you have a belief system that cannot be questioned, if it's a religious belief system or a political belief system, there's vast areas that you won't go, first of all, because your belief system would be under threat if you did. And also, what you're trying to do, when things happen which are basically against what you're saying, you'll spin it to try to make it look. You gave a wonderful example there with Radio Genoa. You'll spin it so that it supports what you're saying, even though you're giving a very, very false version of what actually happened. And, you know, once you let go of belief systems, doesn't mean you don't look at the world and you say, this is how I see it at the moment. But it's not in concrete. So when other information comes up, whatever it is, you will assess it and you'll go with it if it makes sense, and you will move the way you see the world on. You're not stuck in a perceptual jail saying this is how things are and I ain't going anywhere else. And so you look at evidence, and you look at, absolutely right, you look empathetically at the situation. So you can have empathy with the people, the Jews that were impacted on October the 7th. You can have empathy with them, especially when their government allowed it to happen. But then you can also have empathy with the Palestinians and what they've suffered day after day in Gaza. You know, you can't give a label and a name to empathy. Empathy is something where you feel on the basis of the injustice of the way that people are suffering. You don't label empathy. You don't say, well, I have empathy because Jewish people are affected, or I have empathy only because Palestinian or Muslim people are affected. You have empathy with all people, no matter who they are. And this is what belief systems and rigid, immovable sides disconnect you from, this basic empathy.
I don't know how you can look at like an apartment block in Kiev that's been bombed and condemn it, and then look at an apartment block in Gaza and go, that's a good thing.
I think
They're the same thing.
Yeah.
There's as with every conflict, the innocent are the victim.
Yeah, of course they are.
The
I think
young
what they
usually.
something I've noticed as well, and more prevalently over the last week or so, is it's to get certain legislation through. They tell you that the legislation is being used, or the emergency powers, or whatever, are being used against an undesirable. So after Southport, it's the far right. It's the far right out there. It's the far right that we're arresting. It's the far right that we're putting in prison. And everyone else, well, not everyone else, but do you know what I mean? As a tribalistic side, say the left, for instance, is looking at that going, well, good, I hate the far right. So they don't stick up for them and care. And then when you've got the pro-Palestinian marches, they're hate marches, they're terrorist supporters. So then people on the right are going, well, I don't support terrorism, so yeah, lock them up. Whatever, I don't care. And the reason I say it's prevalent more in the last couple of weeks is the story that came out about the DNA spray. So they're going to be spraying the skin of people with a special DNA spray, which shows up for months afterwards, right? And so who do they target? Football hooligans. So that's how it's sold, football hooligan. Well, no one's got skin in the game for a football hooligan. No one's going to stand up and go, I demand that football hooligans have rights. No one's going to do that. And they know that. And so that's why they do it. And so it made the paper. And I'm like, hang on, the police are going to spray human beings with a DNA-based spray that stays on their skin for months so they can track them, and no one's saying a word.
And then that gets extended.
Of course it does.
Yep.
They'd have
Yeah,
been
it
using
doesn't just
for-
end with football hooligans.
They've probably been using it for a
And
long
also,
time.
what constitutes a football hooligan? Because when I was a
Yeah.
kid, if Marco Gabbiadini scored a goal in the last minute, I was on the frickin' pitch. Now, if you set foot onto the pitch, you're dragged off and arrested immediately.
Yeah, and then you come back again to terrorists. You know, you branded a terrorist very, very quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
even you're marked as a level 3 terrorist in the Netherlands. I mean, the Netherlands has gone full fascist, probably even worse than the UK.
Oh, by the sound of it, yeah. They got an
you
open
heard the story
fascist in
about
charge.
the lawyer that was arrested.
Yep.
Who was taken on Bill Gates, among others, you know, to help vaccine damaged people in the Netherlands. And he was arrested over 2 months ago by an official arrest team, blindfolded in the middle of the night. He's been in a high security prison ever since, without any reason given for why he's in prison. And this was, I think, it was a day before the court case was taking place.
So
he
that's
very
really
much
interesting. So they call them a terror. Who are they terrorising?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
So
Well,
you're being deemed a terrorist because the cult see you as that because you're exposing
terrorising
them.
them.
You know, so with Palestine Action, terrorists because what they're terrorising.
They spray painted some planes
But
that
yeah.
don't even belong to the RAF, they
But
belong
then
to a hedge fund.
it's a kind of, but it's against the Israeli state.
Yeah.
So then you're terrorist to the Israeli state. So
for indirect things, right?
you have to be
Nothing-
terrorist to a something else. So what can't you talk about? What can't you speak about? They are accusing you of being terrorist. Well, to them, but you're just pointing out that that's what they're doing. So they're going, oh, well, I feel scared because you're pointing us out.
Yeah.
You're exposing us.
You're terrorising the narrative.
Terrorising the
Terrorize the
narrative,
narrative,
yeah.
but the
Better
whole
way of putting it.
idea of reason, just simple, basic reason, is gone in every
Well,
government.
that's kind of the point as well, and it feels like that's what they're doing internationally. Is before it felt like they tried a bit harder to keep things suppressed, keep things a
100%,
little
mate.
bit,
We
you
talk
know,
about it.
they tried a bit
They
harder.
did.
Whereas now it's almost like someone's just sat next to you, just tapping your face.
Yeah.
They're just going to keep doing it and waiting for you to go. Can you
They want you to
please?
buy.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether that be things like the clear double standards of go back a few years to BLM protests, coppers taking any COVID protests in the same period, they're battering old people and arresting someone that they thought was you, I think, from Germany. If you remember that.
Oh, really?
You've got situations
Yeah.
where, you know, Palestine Action protests, it all kicks off. When there's protest, if it was a pro-Israeli protest, it would be absolutely
Nothing,
fine.
yeah.
It's like they're deliberately trying to wind people up. And even people that probably wouldn't have ever said a word, would have just got on with their lives, all of a sudden now are getting angry. They're getting more and more angry because of the fact that there is, whether it be migrant hotels in their towns and there's things going on around schools and social environments that's not being acknowledged, whether it be the cost of living, whether it be more money going here to Ukraine when they don't want it to, whether it be more attacks on taxes or the elderly, whatever. It's just winding people up
Yeah,
to the
they're
point
poking
that you're
every
just
demographic.
hoping eventually that's just going to go.
Yeah, they are bringing in military-aged young men in ever-increasing numbers.
50,000 since Starmer came in.
And, of course,
One every 11 minutes.
we should mention this as well. I mean, I've been kind of seeing bits and bobs about it, but it's kind of come out this week a lot with Andrew Bridgen and John O'Looney, who's mentioned it before, the guy who was exposing the COVID fake vaccine, of how the government, the Home Office, using trucks owned by BlackRock, it would seem, are because you know, when all these dinghies were coming across the channel with all these migrants on them, overwhelmingly military-aged young men, you thought, well, what happens to the dinghies and all these kind of things that people wear so that if they fall in the sea, what are they called?
Life jackets.
Life jackets, that's the thing, yeah. And so where do they all go? Because the next lot have all got pristine life jackets on, these bloody things, right? And it's being exposed that actually they're running them back to France so they can be recycled to bring more across. So this is the thing. And you know, we go back to this point of it's the same force that's attacking and threatening both, quote, sides. In that you have the migrants are coming in, that's terrible. Migrants, they're welcome and all that stuff. And others say, like the Starmer government, it's the people traffickers, we've got to stop the people trafficking
Smash the
gangs.
gangs. Yeah.
And all along, at that level, this cult level that works through all these political sides, is actually making the whole migrant thing happen. Mm-hmm. So why are they? Because they want a civil war.
Yeah.
They want to turn the white population against the migrant population, and in a massive divide and rule. That's what they want. And when you have that, of course, then you start saying, well, we've got to have draconian measures to respond to this, and so on.
Digital ID, you mentioned it earlier.
Well, curfews, lockdown rule, all that stuff. Yeah.
But what about the bloody cops that are just following their orders?
Well, they're
like
under-
here, arresting a lawyer, you know, and why are you arresting him?
Well, that ties into what we've been talking about, that nothing is in isolation. So for years, the policy of employing certain types of people as police officers, rather than your Bobby on the beat that was ingrained in the community, knew everyone's name, you know, knew the shopkeeper, they don't exist anymore. No. So those people, probably in lockdowns and probably in situations like that, would have had a bit more about them to go, well, what are you on about? I know this person, they're fine, they're not this, that. Whereas now, you're employing more psychopathic characters, and there's a massive divide between the police and the state and the population. Like, if I was in trouble, I wouldn't think I'll go to the police, they'll help me. I wouldn't think and that's most people.
No, they do the same with bailiffs. You look at bailiffs now; they're very often, very often not English.
No, that's right.
There's no connection with the I mean, bailiffs are always bastards anyway, but there's very little connection and empathy. And I speak to police officers fairly often. I've got a couple that are friends, like personal friends, and then I've got others that have emailed, basically from the beginning of COVID, kind of telling me what was, you know, this is what's going on, this is what's going on. And they talk to me and they tell me about their colleagues. Most of them are vaccine injured for a start, their colleagues are. And they're saying that basically, yeah, they're fucking idiots. And they're tearing their hair out, and a lot of them have taken early retirement. So these decent coppers are now getting out.
They're getting out.
Well, that's
because
what
to be replaced by a
carrying
psycho.
a 90-year-old frail woman.
Well, that's
You know, I mean, can you imagine being part of that?
I can't. I can't even imagine how you would get up in the morning.
There's
But
one
of the
that
jokes.
video. There's a young lad at the front, and it focuses on his face a couple of times.
Yeah, you don't want to do
He
it.
doesn't want to do it. He's
Yeah,
got the
you've
most
got-
ashamed
Yeah.
face.
You've got that police officer, and by the way, the guy who shot him on his
Yeah, that's really lamentable.
his ring phone video was, I think it was appalling, but he came around to drop a leaflet off to someone who was they reckon going to be part of a protest, I think against the Palestinian horrors in Gaza, and he was talking through this video link in someone's front door, and basically saying, I don't want to do it. He said, mate, but I've been told to do it, so here it is. The guy's been suspended, I think, for basically taking the piss out of or not taking seriously a law. And, you know, in the end, you've got to look yourself in the mirror, and you've got to look your kids in the eye and your grandkids in the eye and say, what am I doing helping the tyranny in which my kids and grandkids are going to have to live be imposed?
That's the key. It's not protect, because you mentioned there they're vaccine injured. Being part of it's not protecting them, then, is it?
No.
Because they're getting screwed just as much as anybody
Of
else,
course.
and their kids are going to get screwed just as much as anybody else. That's the joke of it. It's that they're toy soldiers.
I remember back in the 90s where they were talking, we were talking about the fact that UN troops were being put into various countries surreptitiously on the basis of they would turn guns on the people in those countries that the people from those countries might not.
Yeah.
And I remember also, long time ago, it was revealed that troops were being given questionnaires. And one of the questions was, would you turn a gun on Americans, for instance? And if you say yes, well, you know, you'll progress. And what we're looking at in terms of freedom of speech here is such a, well, gaslighting, yes, but it's a manipulation whereby you've got the Trump administration and Vance, who's in this country at the moment, God help us, that are having a go at Starmer's government for not supporting freedom of speech, while they themselves are destroying it in America. And it's a classic. You've got the Trump regime, which is said to be of the right, far right, and they are doing certain things in relation to freedom of speech in terms of basic freedoms, like they're putting troops on the streets.
Yeah.
And then you've got the so-called left, it's not really, but officially, in Britain, in the Labour Party. And although the rhetoric's different and some of the details different, the actual outcome is the same. Starmer is destroying freedom of speech and basically using intimidation tactics on the population so that they come to heel. And that's exactly what Trump's doing in America. And one's far right and one's supposed to be left. It's all a mirage.
This is what they call the dark arts. This is what these people are indoctrinated in as kids, as they grow up. It's in the dark arts. They understand the manipulation of energies. They understand. That's why you have red and blue. You have positive and negative in politics. They understand how to manipulate people between these two energies, and that's what they're doing. Every single time we look at something, all of these guys are doing, they can't do anything on their own. They need us to do it. So it's like the Archon's analogy, really, of that they can't get any of this done. They need us to destroy ourselves. So this is the dark arts. They understand how to manipulate people every way, and everything is a manipulation.
And it's like a mass hypnosis, isn't it?
It's a massive, it is.
Mass formation
Once you figure
psychosis.
out how to do that, like you can decode it. It's quite simple. They do use times, dates, colours, and everything, and all of these things, and symbology and sounds, to create these dark arts. We're all
And that's why they
victims
only
of-
need a few to rule the many.
Exactly, because
we're
they
under mass
understand how
hypnosis.
to manipulate people between
Yeah.
these two polarities.
Yeah.
That's why you have triangulation. You have your left, your right, and you have your top, and you have your three. That's why you have your three Abrahamic religions, because they can be triangulated between each other and paired off against
Good
each
point,
other.
good point.
So it is about that's why it's a triangle. That's why the eye is in the middle of the triangle, the top of the triangle. So these are all dark arts. These people train in the dark arts, the secret societies you've been talking about for years, David. Once you understand how they do, and you can see how you're manipulated, you're no longer manipulated.
Yeah.
And I think what I try to do in my work is trying to point out what these people know, how these behave and what they learn and how they use it on others, because that's how to stop them. Because they can't do this without us doing it to ourselves.
If we woke up from a
Consent.
mass hypnosis, then you could apply things like, okay, we don't agree with what these governments are doing, this fascist regime that's coming in worldwide, and you could do something like mass boycott or stop paying taxes, hit them where it hurts. But you can't reach enough people with this kind of thing, because too many people are still saying I'm awake, but they don't see all the other layers of hypnosis that are still working. So it's pretty dire, if you look at how do we get out of this.
Well, it's like when I look at the so-called alternative media hijacked massively since COVID. You've got people in a prison cell, right? A myopic prison cell, belief system, whatever. And what they've done is they've moved the prison cell walls just a touch to encompass conspiracy. But it's conspiracy that's based on political conspiracy. It's the Democrats and on financial
Polarities.
conspiracy, whatever, but it's still a prison cell. And it's not that much bigger than the one people were in before. What they don't want is the walls to come down. And so when you're talking there about the dark arts, this is why I've been pointing out over the years that we have two levels of knowledge. You have the level of knowledge that's passed on through the secret society network, the inner core of it, and then you have the suppression of knowledge in the population. And when you look at the education system and the media, etc., they were created and installed by this cult, people like the Rockefellers in America, same with Big Pharma. So the secret society network passes on this advanced knowledge to the inner core and suppresses that knowledge in the population through the institutions it creates. And so what is this knowledge? Well, some of it, of course, relates to the fact that where the world's being taken, what the outcome is planned to be, and where the stepping stones are leading, okay. But massively, massively, that knowledge is the nature of reality itself. And so they're working with a knowledge of this reality that is far, far, far advanced of that of the population, which is kept in ignorance of what this reality is. And that allows them to use the dark arts. At the same time they're using the dark arts, the population overwhelmingly is saying, what do you mean dark arts? That's rubbish, that's ridiculous, that's mad. Well, it's not. It's just that you've been manipulated to believe it is, so they can go on unmolested using it against you.
One of the biggest things, what you've just said there, is they package this through films, media, as magic, as arts, as something out there.
Supernatural.
Supernatural. That's the best way of putting it. It's not.
Or paranormal.
It's actually, or paranormal, supernatural. It's not. It's actually a problem. It's reaction solution, or it's just consequences of actions. They understand how the reality works, but it's actually nature to all of us. It's not a mystical thing out there. I mean, the word magic, if you add all the numbers up, it's 33. They put this code everywhere. 33rd degree is your magic degree. It's actually practical magic. They call it practical magic in the films. This is what they use. It's not magic as in out there mysterious. We all can do this stuff. It's manipulation. You can use it for good or evil. And that's what it is. So one of the big things is putting in films, making it superhuman, mystical, supernatural. Even with AI, they make it look at this dystopian future. So when you look around you don't realise it. You're already in it because you're looking for this super out there, off in the distance looking stuff. You're not, that might be down the line, but you're already in it. You just don't, because it's been sold to you as something that's way off in the future, you don't realise you're already halfway down the road. And that's really part of what Hollywood does for me, is they
preemptively program.
Yeah, they basically just fluff it up into this magical world, so you don't recognise that it's actually, you're already living in
programming
it.
is to prepare you consciously and overwhelmingly subconsciously to become familiar
Accept it, yep.
with certain things.
So it's not uncomfortable, it's not new.
So it's not like they're going to do what? There's a certain, when it comes in, literally comes in, there's a kind of, there's a familiarity about it,
Yeah.
which eases you into acceptance, when without the preemptive programming or the Hollywood movies and series, you wouldn't be as easily led into it. But the other thing is that, 95% of human behavior comes from the subconscious. It doesn't come from the conscious mind. It doesn't come from the aware mind. It comes from the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind communicates in symbols.
Yep.
That's why we dream symbolically. Very rarely do you have literal dreams. They are symbolic, because that's how the subconscious works. So these symbols are not put around for a bit of fun and a laugh. They're put around because they are programming the subconscious with certain perceptual traits. And this is why to say the human race is under mind control, to say the human race is in a trance is actually true. And awakening this thing about awakening, it's awakening from the trance. That's what it is. And so you have the hijacked alternative media, which has taken the prison cell there, but it's just another trance. It's when you go beyond the walls of the prison and your mind and consciousness can free flow into all possibility, that's when you're truly awakening. And there's so much fake awakening going on. Oh, I'm awake now. Well, that's funny because I don't think anyone's awake. We're awakening. And if you think you're awake and you got it, I got it now. Well, no, you've got some of it. It is massive.
Do you think as well, there's parallels? While you were talking there, I was thinking, you mentioned earlier about Wuhan Lab or Wet Market. Both kept it alive. Killed himself or was murdered, whatever. Epstein's still dead. It stops you looking at those. Do you think they're seeing the same with that? Because religion or science, that's what you're sold. You're sold religion or science, mainstream science, both of which stop you exploring those areas. You know, you're worshipping the devil if you ignore certain parts of religion.
Yeah, you're Luciferian.
And you're Luciferian if you go there. Mainstream science, Big Bang Theory, everything comes from nothing. You go in the ground, that's the end. Both of those limit that perception or that sense of self-identity or what's bigger than us. And I can understand based on that why a lot of people do turn to religion, because at least it offers you something that makes you think you're bigger than something, whereas mainstream science offers you no comfort or anything, does it? But both of those are acceptable for people to believe because they come with limitations.
They come with rules, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point. They come with rules.
They come with rules and they come with limitation.
Well, I see it, religion is very core. Most of the Western religions, they teach you that you aren't anything, that you are
You're nothing.
powerless. You need that crutch to get you to the next level. Everything is always demeaning you. Like we were talking about today
It's
with
always your fault.
AI taking over our jobs. That you're stupid, you're silly. The AI, even your technology, your toaster's smarter than you are.
Yeah.
It's all of this nonsense, and they constantly put that. You always have to be something else. You always have to go somewhere else. You always have to go to heaven. You always have to go to different. You're never all right.
You're working for
You're
them.
never doing all right in this
Yeah.
mad world. You are always. You could be like self-improvement was a massive one. I used to work in the self-improvement industry, making video content. There, you always want to improve yourself. There's a difference between wanting to improve yourself for the enjoyment of doing so and the adventure, than feeling less than and you need to be better than and you've got to 10x this. It was always this nonsense of like, you are this meager thing and you've got to become something else. Transhumanism is the same thing. Super intelligence. Am I right? Like it's just
This is
Well,
this is
this was gonna
a very, very good point, Rich. And it's like Grok and ChatGPT and all these things. It's like having robots doing all these things. It's like having the classic autonomous driverless cars. Okay, why? What's the point?
Yep.
What is the point? You can get in a car and you can drive it where you want to go. What's the point of it driving itself? Well, the point is, of course, that it's then deciding, the computer is deciding where you can and cannot go. But it's like this question, why? Why are we doing it? Why are we pursuing so-called advancements for the sake of the advancements? How does this affect humanity? How does it affect interpersonal relationships? These things are not questioned. It's that everything must go forward. Always the latest
New is
thing.
always better.
Right. You know, I look back at the 1950s when I was growing up, when none of this happened, and we were absolutely skint. My family was absolutely skint in Leicester, but it was lovely in its own way, because you had to use your imagination. You had to make your own fun. You had to use this a bit more.
Yeah.
And now we have the scrolling generations who are controlled by what's coming off that phone.
There's a brilliant scene in a cowboy film. I can't remember the film. I'll try and get it and put it in the description. Of a scene when these three couples are walking down the street, and someone's trying to sell them a washing machine, right? Because obviously it wasn't a thing then. People were washing clothes by hand. Anyway, trying to sell them a washing machine. Trying to sell it to the women. That this is great. This is And one of the blokes says a fantastic line, which is, "You're trying to sell us something we don't need, so then all of a sudden we work for you."
Yeah.
And obviously, most people agree a washing machine was probably a good thing, but we're getting to the point now where the things that we're being sold that we absolutely don't need. So then, especially with AI, quite literally, we will work for it. Like anyone that's in a job now, an administrative job, a replying to emails type job, a non-really creative type job, even things like computer coders, which earn good money, really good money now, they're gone in 5 years
They're
if
gone,
this continues.
We
They're
already
gone.
do. We
You know.
already work for that beast system. We built that beast system with the internet. We built that
But then
over the
the
last
internet-
25 years. I'm not saying it's an awful thing, because it's not, like anything, it's a tool. But every time we make a bit of content like this, we put it on the internet. We feed it.
But that's
and I
where
get that.
it's
So
about
there has to be a
balance.
way where, yeah, of course it is, yeah. There has to be a point where you're going to see people go off into the AI world, and there's going to be a group that don't. And there will be a divergence, they call it.
Well, I think
Now-
it's attacking the young. That's why they're attacking the young. 'Cause I think the older
Well, they won't know any different.
Exactly, and I think I'm the youngest here, but even me at 32, I understand now already the best things in life happen offline by a mile. You cannot buy the moments you can have offline, online. But the younger generation that have been on iPads since they were 2 years old, unless they're protected by them, like we protect our children from that, they're going to think this is normal. They're not going to know how to experience the offline world.
Exactly.
So they will not only think this is a, natural progression, they'll think it's brilliant. They'll
Not
think
only
it's
that,
great.
Well, they'll be taught to fear the offline world as well.
Well, yeah,
it will be like that.
You got Zuckerberg yesterday
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about within 10 years we won't have mobile phones. You'll have glasses and you'll have everything you have on your phone just by your thoughts.
Yeah, that guy's a
And
moron,
people will
he's
say that's
telling
a
us what
good
we're going
thing.
to do, you know.
People will say that's a good thing. That's why it's so important we talk about this. I'd say my generation is probably the last one where the balance between technology and the real world, in your teens anyway, was okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
agree.
was born in 92, so I was 16 when the first iPhone came out. So it wasn't really that, social media was a pretty new tool, whereas now, they've got to be protected
I'll
more than
tell
ever
you
before.
something too that I've really noticed. That people you meet offline are not the people you meet online.
100%.
I mean, you'll post something, it can be quite innocuous, but you're always going to get loads of abuse.
There's no context online either as well.
No, and you get these attacks and stuff, okay, in one ear and out the other. But then you meet people, and you can get the impression that enormous numbers of people are against you. And of course, kids have committed suicide because of the abuse they've got. But then you meet people in the street. I meet them all the time, and they come up to me and they talk to me about the information and stuff, and they're completely and utterly different people to those you meet online. There's two worlds, and one is a world that they want to turn humans into, basically empathy deleted, and people whose first reaction is to abuse rather than to debate. But one thing I just want to mention, because you brought it up in relation to religion and science. Science is a religion. See, my father used to talk about bricks and mortar religion, churches and stuff like that. But religion is a state of mind. And you can put a different name on it, a different name on the door, but it's the same state of mind. So you look at Islam and Christianity and Hinduism and Judaism, and basically they are the same structure and basically the same mentality. If you had someone born in India, they're almost certainly going to be a Hindu. Someone born in the southern states of America, likely Christian. Someone born in the Middle East and Israel, likely a Jew or a Muslim. But you have those people born in other places, and they'll become a different religion. Because it's all they've ever heard, and it's what they've been programmed to believe. Now you move to science. So what is a religion? Bricks and mortar religion, as my father would put it. You have a holy book, and the holy book is the word of God, so cannot be contested. Even though it's totally contradictory, it cannot be contested. And, bless you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, sorry, you didn't sneeze, did you? Oh, you did sneeze.
I did
Yeah,
sneeze,
bless you, yeah. And so you have the Holy Book. And the Holy Book is the Word of God. And if you're going to be a Christian, Jew, whatever, you have to follow the Holy Book. And you mustn't go outside of it. You mustn't explore outside of it. Now look at science. The Holy Books are the books of scientific orthodoxy. They're the Holy Books. And they say, basically, that there is no other reality. There's only this one. We're basically a cosmic accident that came from nowhere and will disappear into nowhere once this ceases its cycle. And if you go outside of those Holy Book orthodoxies in science, you lose your funding, you lose your prestige, you're called a pseudo-scientist, you're marginalized, exactly as you are in religion. So it's the mentality that is religion, not what it's called.
What you're saying there about the next religion is going to be the AI religion. Isn't
Yeah.
it? It's going to be this one world religion. I'll call it the X religion because it seems to go Saturn way. You're going to have that with the 7 Noah High Lords probably programmed in there. Stick to those. What's really fascinating and terrifying is I think when we were little, if you made a mistake when you were a kid, 6 friends might know about it. Now you think the world's watching you.
Yeah.
They've inverted it. You've become the centre of every world individually on the internet. So you think, oh my God, I better do that. Someone might post it on the internet, might see that. Hundreds of thousands of people might see it. Not that anyone really gives a shit what you're doing, because we're all too worried about what we're doing. But you're programmed to think the world is watching you all the time.
Well, if you're
so
cuddling your HR
bought-
assistant at a Coldplay concert, they are.
Yeah, but it can also
Well,
it can be used against you at a later date. Should you step
Yes,
out of line.
that's the
But
thing.
you
Yeah.
used to make a mistake when you were allowed to make mistakes, do
Yeah.
stupid things, say
Oh,
silly
not
things.
anymore.
Not anymore, because the world's watching. What a horrific feeling that is for any young person or any person. You have to get to the point where you don't care what they think.
Yeah.
But they're programmed to care what everybody thinks. And not only that, the only thing that really matters is not that you've done something in your life, it's that the internet knew about it.
And
Yeah,
it's feeding this
So
narcissistic,
this machine is
epidemic
only
as
way
well.
reality is getting fed into this machine
And what happens?
the other way around.
What happens when you care about what other people think is you have all this potential perception, all this potential behavior, and as you more and more want to conform to what you think people will like,
Yeah.
you are squeezing and squeezing and squeezing your potential for perception, your potential for behavior, because you're seeking to mitigate all the things that people won't like about you. If you do that, you do that. And the best thing is to not give a damn about what people think, because then you can go where you choose and go where your perceptions take you and what have you, without having this limitation of what will people think if I do this or if I say that. You just do it. But the other thing I would mention, which I saw yesterday, is I went through the page of Elon Musk on Twitter X, which of course his algorithms are on full blast. That's where he gets millions, tens of millions of views for anything he posts, no matter how inane, and my God, he gets inane with Elon Musk. But what's happened is exactly what I said would happen a long time ago. X would become the sales pitch place for AI. And he's got this Grok thing, and he's now got this latest version of it. And all right, he's pushing Starlink, which is all about creating this electromagnetic global field. But I would say, when I looked through yesterday, 90% of his posts and the reposts that he made are all pushing AI as a way forward and the way the future should be. And that's the MAGA platform, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they've got people to believe that that's inevitable. That's a big thing, creating that inevitability as well. Just going back 1 second to what you're talking about online as well. I've got one final point on that. to raise is, I think it's also appealed to people's worst possible nature. Because, for example, me and Gaz were walking in Lake District at the weekend, and there was some guy gobbing off in a field just to himself, just being loud and annoying. Me and Gaz just went,
On his own?
yeah. Well, he was with some friends in the end, but we just worked with him, what a prat, and then got on with our lives and carried on. People don't do that online, because essentially our choice there was to have a physical confrontation with somebody or to ignore it and get on with their lives. And that's what people used to do. They just got on with their lives. Whereas now, someone puts something up you don't like, well, kind of that, got a comment on it. And it's pulling people in to arguments and to that abusive nature that you mentioned, where people just have to go at somebody rather than go, music video, I don't really like that. Anyway, cup of tea, and move on with their life. They have to go in and go, well, she looks fat, this guy's an idiot, just leave it.
He was quite a nice lad at the end as well.
He was quite funny.
talking to us.
Only because he made a nice compliment to us.
He did. But something I was thinking, but something that you basically coming off of what you've said there, it creates a different persona as well online. They're different people.
Completely.
And that's always been the way. You used to call them keyboard warriors. Like, it's always been the way. But I think, like with Dad in particular, you know, like all the abuse, 90%, if not more, of those people that give abuse under those posts would ask for a selfie if they saw you in advert. They would. That's the joke of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the joke of it.
It's a big one, big loosh machine, isn't it?
It's
That's
just
what
fake.
it is. It's just this concentration of anger, X specifically, that's designed to get you angry. That
It
is
is,
the
yeah.
algorithms of that is to piss me off for the day. So I'll sit there as long as possible and feed the machine. And we know that. And I think there is at some point those who don't want to be part of that system are going to have to let their online presence die.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be hard for a lot of people. I know I'd find it hard because you build your whole thing about online. If someone said to you, how would you earn a living? That you're getting dependent on the drug.
Yeah.
But not just because you want the drug, it's because you like, what else is there? And you think gets
That's why
pulled
they
in
chuck
there.
Randy Fine at me all the time.
Well,
To
exactly.
piss me off. I don't follow that fat piece of shit, but he shows up on my timeline every single day repeatedly.
Yeah, he
And
follows
I know,
you.
I know Elon's doing it to wind me up.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I use Twitter X, is basically the only one I can use, is on the basis of let he who can hear, let them hear.
Whilst they can, yeah. No, I get it. Same bit.
And what you have to do is just shut off all the rest of it. And what you see when you on X, and I read very few of the comments. I might see the first top two or something if I'm checking if it's posted right. I might see the first two. What you see is the polarization of belief system, where you can't go beyond it. I mean, when I challenge religion, the abuse you get is unbelievable. And you know, you talk there about how the so-called occult is not good or bad. It's just how you use it. An occult just means hidden. Mm-hmm. It's hidden knowledge. That's what it is. But you see, the religions have been taught, and 5.4 billion of the 8 billion we're supposed to have are either Hindu, Muslim, or Christian. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I've just finished a book which is going to come out in a few months, in which I do focus on a few chapters on religion. And it really hits you when you really get deeply into it, the importance to perceptual oppression and myopia that religion represents. If religion didn't exist, this cult would have to invent it.
Yeah.
I would suggest that it did.
Yep, I agree, and that's why I raised earlier the science and the religion aspect, and then I didn't ask the question I was going to, which was about, is that why you think religion has been thrusted back into the alternative media, because it stops down that further conversation of those people who are starting to question the world, starting to question things around. All of a sudden, you just keep them looking for the next,
The
what
other
they
part
consider
It gets them to
saviour,
support the end
the
times
next,
as well.
the next
That's it,
Trump,
yeah,
the
it's
next
not that
Farage,
saviour.
which they think is coming in to help them, rather
They
than
need
looking
to bring
in the mirror.
that narrative that Gaz just mentioned. They need that biblical narrative now. It's time to play that card.
Yeah.
So they have to bring that back in now. And then they've got these three Abrahamic religions that have different interpretations of the same analogies from elsewhere, that could be fought off against each other. That was always, in my opinion, the game. So you're right, it's the time now is to play that card. They have to bring him in, and that's alternative has been absolutely used for that.
Oh yeah, and particularly the Roman Catholic religion is what they're turning to. And I always remember, you know, you used to come down the road and turn into Ryde on the Isle of Wight, and there was a church on the left, and it said for years, Jesus is Lord in massive letters, and now Jesus is King.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean? What does it mean? And you see the pictures of Jesus sitting on a throne and everyone bowing to him, because, you know, and you're told that everybody, when Jesus comes back, everyone will bend the knee to Jesus. Well, why don't we just stop bending the bloody knee to anyone?
Yep,
why don't we just do that? And we might have a better chance of not being controlled. But you know, what you realise, as I did a long time ago, is that people talk about Christianity and they talk about Judaism and they talk about Islam. Well, Christianity is an outgrowth of Judaism, which encompasses and accepts the literal. That they literally happened, these Old Testament tales. So you got Christianity as an outgrowth of Judaism, but Islam is an outgrowth of Christianity. They believe in Abraham, they believe in Jesus, they believe in Moses, they believe in so many, Mother Mary, they believe in so many of these biblical characters which go back to the ancient world. And you know, when people say, oh, Islam's a totally different religion, well, on one level it is, but there's so much in Islam that is taken from Judaism and taken from Christianity. The Abrahamic religions, you know, they have enormous amounts in common, while they are portrayed as having nothing in common, basically, in terms of Islam and the other two anyway.
The biggest thing they have in common is they've been used to suppress people's perceptions and view of themselves and reality and where we are for hundreds and hundreds of years. I did an episode on this earlier in the week. Go back to like 400 AD to religious conflicts people were having, right up to, 2,000 years later. We're still having them.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's
People
one of the root.
forget they're
biggest
only a
issues
few
we
thousand years old, these Abrahamic religions. Like,
Well, yeah.
Judaism is obviously a little bit older, but it's not Zoroastrianism. You go back to all of these older ones, but they nick stuff off. And the Egyptian, you know, pagans, they call them, which means rural. It's quite clear they've taken things like King Sargon, when he was in a basket put down the river.
Yeah.
What else does that sound like?
Yeah.
It's just like they just come on, think of
I know.
new stuff.
Be creative.
Judaism came out of Mesopotamia,
Of course it did, yeah.
what we now call Iraq and part of Syria, the land between two rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. That's where Judaism came out of. And then, I mean, look where Islam came out of. Look where Christianity came out of. Look where Judaism came out of. It's that same area of the Middle East.
And beyond them, you have these secret societies that know all this. I mean, we know all this. Most people do know this, but they don't want to admit it. But you've got the Assassins and the Knights Templar and all these guys passing this secret society that we were talking about earlier, this way of manipulating people really is working with dark arts, working with the magic of the world, if you want to call it magic. They went through the Assassins, come from the old Egyptian mystery schools. This information is what these people are using. And it's open to all of us. The thing is, you don't have to go and join a secret society to learn this stuff. Just study it. It's pretty bloody obvious.
You just need eyes to know that Baron Trump's a Nephilim.
Oh yeah, was he 9'8"?
At least 9'8".
He's a huge boy.
The brilliant video too someone put up of the not coronation.
Inauguration. It may as well be a
Musk
coronation.
against
Yeah,
Musk
exactly.
next to
Well, he thought
Baron
it was a
Trump.
coronation,
Yeah, I
didn't
know,
he?
right?
It was Musk
Mar-a-Lago is the palace.
Musk next to Baron Trump, and he's doing that, and
Yeah.
he's doing that with just the two sides of
This is
autism.
the two
Yeah, they're
sides.
both
Yeah,
autistic,
it's
yeah.
literally.
Have you seen the Oval Office, by the way, since Trump took
There's
over?
loads of gold stuff everywhere.
With all that gold stuff everywhere. It looks like a brothel.
I think it probably
It
is.
does.
Probably is.
Probably appropriately,
Remove
actually.
the rose garden, the ancient
Oh, yeah.
rose garden as well.
Do you know this is the crazy thing? We'll finish on this because it's mental. The White House is actually hosting a UFC fighting event on its grounds because Trump's friends with Dana White at some point before the end of the year.
Of course it is. Why?
It's like he's
why wouldn't
literally the reality TV
Why-
character. in
why-
a way. It's just
Why
mad.
wouldn't it? Well, that's what he is, though, isn't it? He's a reality TV star.
Yes, he
That's
is.
Yeah.
what he is.
And he's
Yeah.
bringing it
Literally what he is.
And he'll be taking a cut. I've no fear about that.
100%. Right,
You
Below
should be
the eye,
saying,
hopefully.
I'm fired though, and not you're fired.
this is true. Right, thanks everybody. We're going to do this slightly differently this week, ladies and gentlemen.
We're going to do it upside
At
down.
home. Yeah, we are, literally. Because last time the show was obviously over 3 hours long because of so many questions, so what we're going to do is we're going to round up there for the round table, and then we're going to come back and there's going to be another show that's going to be available on Sunday, which is going to be called Everything Answered, where we dive into the questions which I have in front of me, which is, as you can see, quite extensive. So we'll see you then.
Bye.
So, yeah.